Tonight, President Biden is here on the West Coast for a major economic summit as he prepares for a high-stakes meeting tomorrow with Chinese President Xi Jinping, who also arrived today in San Francisco. That face-to-face meeting is aimed at improving relations between the U.S. and China. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Today, crowds line the streets in San Francisco to watch President Biden's motorcade. And tonight, we are hearing about demonstrations. Groups of pro-Palestinian activists working to send APEC crowds a message about the Israel-Hamas war. These are images tonight from where people have gathered in the middle of San Francisco's downtown area, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Just one of many demonstrations we are seeing. Earlier today at San Francisco International Airport, the arrival of President Xi brought out pro-China supporters as well as demonstrators, including those supporting Tibet. At one point, tensions flared as the groups began yelling at each other, and a man with a U.S. flag began waving it and striking a barrier. San Francisco police were here keeping an eye on the exchange, and they moved those protesters along. Tonight, KTVU's Greg Lee has a preview of tomorrow's much-anticipated meeting between President Biden and President Xi.
President Biden stepped off Air Force One, arriving in the Bay Area as final details are being negotiated for his summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The high-stakes meeting, the first face-to-face meeting between the leaders of the world's two largest economies in a year.
To get back on a normal course of corresponding, being able to pick up the phone and talk to one another if there's a crisis, being able to make sure our military still have contact with one another.
There's been a lot of disputes and a lot of differences. And so the real question is whether or not President Biden and President Xi can establish at least a relationship where they can have a dialogue.
With relations at a low point, former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta told us President Biden needs to show strength on geopolitical issues like tensions over Taiwan.
I think it's important for him to make clear that the United States is a Pacific power, just like China. And that we believe that it's important to try to work with China towards peace and stability.
Strengthening open lines of communication and managing competition responsibly so that it does not veer into conflict.
Biden is expected to push to reestablish military communications. The wide-ranging agenda is also expected to include climate change, human rights, the Indo-Pacific, and urging China to keep Iran from expanding the Israel-Hamas war.
President Biden will make the point to President Xi that Iran acting in an escalatory, destabilizing way that undermines stability across the broader Middle East is not in the interests of the PRC or of any other responsible country.
The presidents are also reportedly finalizing a deal for China to crack down on export of fentanyl.
The second area is fentanyl. We've got a tremendous fentanyl epidemic here. A lot of that is produced in China.
House Republicans sent the president a letter urging him to further challenge Beijing, including a list of demands. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson said this: the U.S. needs to respect China's concerns and legitimate rights to development rather than emphasizing its own concerns at the expense of China's interests.
This summit is not going to change the nature of U.S.-China relations.
U.S.-China experts don't expect much more than opening lines of communication. But with this happening on the APEC sidelines, believe Biden needs to reaffirm the U.S.'s role in the global economy.
To ensure that the U.S. remains the cornerstone of the global economy, to ensure that we remain the preponderant power, and that nations making a choice between America and China are choosing our side, choosing the other democracies.
And that was KTVU's Greg Lee reporting for us tonight. To stay on top of the latest developments coming out of the APEC summit in San Francisco, head to our website, westcoastwrap.com. A section of Freeway near downtown Los Angeles that was damaged by a huge fire over the weekend may have to remain closed for several more weeks. But Caltrans officials said today that stretch of the 10 freeway will not have to be demolished. Demolition work would have likely taken months to complete. California Governor Gavin Newsom was in Los Angeles today to announce the news after an analysis of core samples taken from the freeway's columns and bridge deck came back. Engineers told him the elevated section of Freeway can be repaired in 3 to 5 weeks, with crews working around the clock.
We will not need to demolish and replace the I-10. We will continue the kind of repairs you're seeing being done behind me and continue a shoring plan to shore up this site.
Investigators say an arsonist caused that massive fire early on Saturday in a storage lot directly under the freeway that housed vehicles and wooden pallets. So far, no arrests have been made in that case. A San Francisco jury is expected to begin deliberations as soon as tomorrow in the trial of the man who's accused of attacking Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Today, the defendant, David DePape, took the stand. He broke down at times, telling the jury about a vast conspiracy he believes runs a child sex trafficking ring. DePape testified that he went to the Pelosi's home with the intent of questioning and recording a video of Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi about what he called lies. DePape said he felt bad after hitting Paul Pelosi with the hammer, saying they had a, quote, really good rapport. Closing statements in this federal trial are expected tomorrow.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay. Sit down, please.
All right. Can I respond?
A heated exchange on Capitol Hill today, shedding light on tensions over the country's growing labor movement. Today's congressional hearing focused on organized labor, and it comes the same day that more than 1,000 nurses began a strike in Washington state. Also later this week, thousands of Starbucks workers are planning to walk off the job. That hearing today was meant to give Congress more insight on recent union victories, with testimony from several union leaders. And the discussion included several tense confrontations between Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin and Teamsters President Sean O'Brien.
You challenged me to a cage match, acting like a 12-year-old schoolyard bully.
Excuse me. Hold it. No, excuse me.
I will say exactly.
Senator Mullin, I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that said, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not talking about. Of course, I did.
And let me show you his hearing, because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
You're not pointing at me. That's disrespectful.
All right.
I don't care about respecting you at all.
I don't respect you at all.
Senator Mullin has been a frequent critic of union leadership. At one point, he and the Teamsters president agreed to meet over coffee to work out their differences, but then the back and forth continued. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell commented on the situation, saying he doesn't think it's his responsibility to control the behavior of Senate Republicans. Nurses in Washington started a strike earlier today. They say a combination of burnout and staffing shortages led them to walk off the job. Fox 13's Frankie Thompson reports the union is hoping a 5-day strike strategy will put pressure on contract negotiators.
With every cheer, every honking horn, and every step, these nurses on strike have a clear message.
The community needs to understand that this is for their safety.
It's day one of the nurses' strike at Providence Regional Medical Center in Everett. Members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union are marching against unfair labor practices, calling for a fair contract.
We're just getting overridden. We're not being heard, and unfortunately it had to come to this.
Hospital leaders say majority of their nurses are on the picket line. Volunteers are helping cover daily operations, while replacement nurses are filling in to care for patients.
This comes at a higher cost, for the hospital, which is unfortunate, which is why, we were really disappointed that we got to this point with a strike.
When the strike is over in 5 days, both sides will be back at the bargaining table. Officials hope their proposal, including incentives, retention and recruitment programs, and a 21.5% wage increase, will be agreed on.
This is the highest increase that I've ever seen. On average, it's between 7 to 9%. We're offering 21.5%, in addition to other incentives, in addition to other compensation that's built into the package. So it's a really good contract.
But union members say their fight is not all about the money. They say they've been dealing with chronic staffing shortages, claiming it's affecting patient care.
This is harder than the pandemic. I've never experienced these kind of patient loads in the 19 years of hospital nursing.
As nurses, it's really hard to walk into a shift and have 10 patients. I've had to float to floors that I'm not trained on and be working with patients that are old on comfort care, have really complicated wounds that I'm not used to changing, and just be like, I'm going to do my best for you, but I'm not really the nurse you need right now, and there isn't enough of us.
Hospital officials say they're actively working on a solution, but they say the answer cannot be reached by a strike.
It's disruptive. It's disruptive not just to our patients and our community, it's disruptive to us as an organization and our culture. And as we come back together, our goal has been from day one to ensure that we're welcoming our nurses back. We care about our nurses, we value them, we need them.
This is our best chance to fix the staffing problem and give us the care that we deserve to give to our community.
Providence officials say the hospital is fully staffed with replacement nurses and volunteers and assured scheduled procedures will continue to operate as normal. Union leaders say this strike will be 24 hours a day until Sunday morning. They're also hosting a candlelight vigil on Thursday for former patients and those who have lost loved ones here. Reporting in Everett, Frankie Thompson, Fox 13 News.
SAG-AFTRA members began voting today on a tentative 3-year deal with the major studios. The agreement ended the longest actors' strike in Hollywood history. Union leaders approved it on Friday, and they're now encouraging their members to vote yes. Voting is expected to continue through the first week of December. People in Northern California are seeing the start of what is expected to be several days of rain. This was the scene in San Mateo County in the Bay Area, what drivers had to face as they started off the day. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, who is tracking several systems that will affect the West Coast. Hi, Roberta.
Hi there, Alex. And yes, we've been talking about rain impacting the state of California for the past several days. In fact, I've been talking about it since the weekend, and that area low pressure, it's finally producing some rain bands in the San Francisco Bay Area, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, over 1/4 inch of rain. In Bodega Bay, Santa Rosa, Dillon Beach at 2/10 inch of rain, and Calzadero with over 1/4 inch. So as you take a look at the state of California, you see the precipitation is void of the Seattle and Portland area. You saw the rain showers over the weekend. Now that northwestern quadrant of the state of California being impacted by moderate rainfall. But the problem is, the big question is, how much rain should all of us expect? We've had this area of low pressure. It's just been meandering, anchored off the California coast. In fact, earlier today, it started to retrograde and pull out in a westerly direction instead of pushing on shore, which it should do. It just doesn't have that support. So the bottom line is, we will be experiencing waves and periods of rain showers. Right now, right here, you could see the rain showers around Del Norte and also Humboldt counties, as well as Mendocino County, and trying to work its way into Lake County as well. How this will impact Southern California, hey, Alex, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
All right, look forward to that. Roberta, thank you. Coming up here on West Coast Wrap tonight, a lawmaker accusing former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy of elbowing him on Capitol Hill. Coming up, how the California Republican is responding to those accusations. Also, find out how a service offered by one Arizona startup may convince more car buyers to go electric.
It just says about Kevin McCarthy is all it says about.
What does it say about him?
I think he's just showing his true colors, what he is. And here's the deal.
Reaction from Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, who says former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy got physical with him on Capitol Hill today. Burchett says the California Republican elbowed him in the kidneys because he voted to oust McCarthy from his post as Speaker. McCarthy has a different take on what happened when he passed Burchett in a hallway.
And I guess a reporter was interviewing Burchett or something. I guess our shoulders hit because Burchett runs up to me after. I didn't know what he was talking about. Some reporters asked me. I did not run and hit the guy. I did not kidney punch him. I did not shoot anything like that.
You didn't shove him?
No.
Burchett was one of 8 Republicans who voted to oust McCarthy from the role of House Speaker. He says he is not surprised by today's encounter.
What are the chances? 435 members of Congress, 8 of us voted against him. I'm the one who did it. I'm one of them that did it. He's publicly called me out, and he didn't see any cameras. He didn't think anybody was paying attention. Oh yeah, come on. I'll take a polygraph test and have Kevin take a polygraph test.
Congressman Burchett calls this a classic case of bullying. He does not intend to ask House leadership to address the issue. Now to Los Angeles, where an indictment was unsealed against 23 members of the MS-13 gang. Federal prosecutors say they trafficked large quantities of methamphetamines, fentanyl, and cocaine. Officials say their leader was actually running the operation from behind bars. Authorities also seized 9 weapons and $94,000 in cash. Sentencing for a man who pleaded guilty to distributing fentanyl-laced pills, which prosecutors say led to the death of an Arizona teenager, has been delayed. Michael Fox was charged with distributing fentanyl-laced pills to 16-year-old Hannah Elizabeth Perrett. Friends and family members of the victim gave emotional testimony in this case. Fox's sentencing is now scheduled for November 20th. Nearly 30 people were arrested near Portland after a retail theft sting operation. Authorities say detectives worked with security personnel at the Clackamas Town Center over a 10-hour period and recovered more than $5,000 in stolen merchandise along with a stolen vehicle. The National Retail Federation says there's been a dramatic jump in retail theft, with $112 billion in losses last year, up from $93 billion the year before. People in Anchorage, Alaska welcomed a break from the snowfall today. Video on social media shows the storm that dumped 9 inches of snow yesterday. That's a new record for that date. U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski posted video on her social media today showing snowy conditions near the Turnagain Arm Waterway. That's south of Anchorage. Senator Murkowski says she has requested a coordinated federal approach to disaster preparedness and climate resilience for that region. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, tracking conditions all across the West. Remarkable scene there in Alaska.
I just love seeing that, and I'm wondering if that is the same system that potentially could bring us rain after Thanksgiving. That far off. You know, the system that we've been tracking offshore since this weekend, this is the same system that did cause a snow emergency in Anchorage, Alaska last Friday. So it takes time to make its tracks towards the state of California, and here it is right now. Who would have ever thought that the rain bands that they're experiencing in Oregon right now is associated with that same area of low pressure that we've been tracking since the weekend? It brought copious amounts of rain showers in throughout the Pacific Northwest on Friday and on Saturday, and then it's been anchored off the California coast. And as it does so, notice these rain bands are fueling and lifting back up towards the Pacific Northwest. So what does this mean for the state of California? Well, right now we're seeing that precipitation nick that northwestern quadrant of the state of California, but meanwhile you see the mid and high level bands of clouds reaching all the way into Salt Lake City. So let's take a look at the current conditions around the state of California right now, all the way into Nevada at 54 in Reno. How about 66 in Las Vegas? Palm Springs cooling to under 70 degrees, and it's under 80 degrees right now in Phoenix. 60 in San Diego with plenty of cloud cover. In fact, we have a shield of clouds that have worked their way into the Southland in Los Angeles. Bay Area is just on the verge of being the recipient of some precipitation. We're talking about snow around the Mammoth area. That will be by Wednesday around this time tomorrow. And you notice the rain bands are all associated with the frontal boundary, the core that's still off the coast here. That has been retrograding and pulling out in a westerly direction instead of east. It needs some good support to push on shore. What is that going to take? Well, some gustier winds and also timing. The timing is of the essence. That core will probably not move on shore until towards the end of the work week and impact the San Francisco area. So by Friday, over a half an inch of rain is expected in the Bay Area. How about just about 15/100ths of an inch of rain across the Southern California area? I'm talking primarily around Orange County, backing through the Los Angeles basin. And the Reno area, we're not looking at any snow as of now. Meanwhile, Seattle's high temperature today only in the low 50s. We're talking about how about the Bay Area? The high temperature in San Francisco was 73 degrees in Oakland and a little bit cooler than that in San Francisco. And today's high temperature in Los Angeles was 79 degrees. Enjoy your evening.
All right, Roberta, thank you. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, some new help for EV drivers. Coming up, the Arizona startup that's helping out when batteries get low. An Arizona startup has plans to capitalize on the growing number of EV drivers. Fox 10's Steve Nielsen shows us how it's offering a service that drivers have trouble finding anywhere else.
Sitting on the back of a pickup truck, this box can be a lifesaver.
Our whole goal is to, be as light a touch as possible, get them charged and get them going.
Skylar Watson and Brian Ritter created Evergency 6 weeks ago, a solution to a dead battery on an electric vehicle. You call them 24/7 and they'll show up to give you a mobile charge. They've helped one car stranded on the side of the road. Another was someone driving a Nissan Leaf on the way to a charger.
She drove to it as quickly as she could and basically died in the parking lot, and it turns out that the charging station that she had pulled into was dead.
Non-working chargers is an issue. As Fox 10 reported Monday night, a routine drive to Flagstaff found of the city's 5 non-Tesla chargers, 2 were broken and a third was stuck on a swirling screen. Not all tow truck drivers will respond.
We don't have the setup for it. There's no 2 EVs are the same, so you got to have all the extra insurance, you have to have the proper equipment, and for somebody like me, it's just a small outfit, it's just not worth my time.
Skylar says they're insured at Evergency. They allow you to schedule a charge for a smaller amount, but for an emergency response, the cost is $120 for a 30-minute charge. They believe it's cheaper than a tow truck, and it'll give you enough juice to get you to safety.
That 20 miles will get you hopefully home.
And that was Fox 10's Steve Nielsen reporting tonight. Evergency only operates in the Phoenix area right now. AAA offers a similar service in some parts of California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Colorado. In Phoenix, a man was rushed to the hospital in critical condition today after an electrical box exploded at a Home Depot store. Firefighters said the man was working in an electrical room in the back of that store. He was taken to the hospital with serious burns to his face and hands. Authorities say no one else was injured and the store remained open. It's unclear tonight exactly what caused that electrical box to explode. An 87-year-old man who ate at a San Diego County restaurant during an Ecoli outbreak has died. Health officials say the man, identified as John Ferber, had several pre-existing conditions. He died October 26th. His death is the first linked to last month's outbreak at the popular chain restaurant Miguel's Cocina in 4S Ranch. The outbreak left 10 people hospitalized and sickened at least 25 others. A county investigation into the source of the outbreak is still ongoing. And finally tonight, the owner of the San Diego Padres has died. Peter Seidler had been sick for months with an undisclosed illness. He was also a 2-time cancer survivor. The San Diego Tribune reports Seidler died peacefully today at the age of 63 with family members by his side. Padres CEO Eric Grupner called Seidler a kind and generous man and said his spirit is now firmly embedded in the fabric of the Padres. Seidler was known for spending big on the club in the hopes of eventually bringing a World Series title to the city of San Diego and its fans. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. Thank you so much for watching. You can stay up to date on all the stories we're covering online. Head over to westcoastwrap.com. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.